So that's right, guys. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Basic Fun's Star Wars Return of the Jedi Arcade Classics Ultra Series cab, seeing how it compares to Arcade 1-Up's previously released and excellent Atari Star Wars, and should you consider picking it up. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Michael B, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Basic Fun's Star Wars Return of the Jedi Arcade Classics Ultra Series cab. I want to say a huge thank you to Basic Fun Arcade Classics for sending me out this cab for the purpose of review. If you've been following my channel, you know I've been pretty critical of what Basic Fun have done with the Arcade Classics line up to this point, so I thought it was a huge integrity move for them to reach out to me, show me this cab they were so proud of, send me out that review unit, and get my take. So let's take a look at the arcade cabinet, see how it stacks up compared to Arcade 1-Up, and most importantly, should you consider picking up this release. Alright guys, here it is, my very first Basic Fun Arcade Classics home arcade in my house. The package is absolutely beautiful, I actually love it. But the package did receive a little bit of shipping damage and it got a little bit wet. Thankfully, everything is packed so well inside the package that all the parts came in pristine condition and I didn't have any issue with damaged side panels. None of the art was messed up. Everything was perfect. One thing I will give Basic Fun a lot of credit for is the assembly was very straightforward, very well done. I got a very solid product by the time I was finished, and it was actually a lot quicker than I'm used to from building Arcade 1-Up cabinets. So guys, after the fairly quick assembly, here's the cab fully constructed, and I gotta say, it does look really good. However, I do have to point out for those of you that are looking to buy recreation arcades that match exactly to the original arcade they're based on, this is obviously very different. I want to say a huge thank you to my buddy Justin Console Kits, who actually got a real Return of the Jedi arcade just recently as a gift from his wife for his birthday. Anyways, this thing looks incredible. I love the big monitor that's mounted on top, and of course that monitor is on a little bit of a pedestal with your control panel out front. Of course, Basic Fun couldn't recreate the exact shape of this. In fact, they had this to say when I asked them why they didn't recreate the exact shape. Our goal with this model was to stay as faithful as possible to the original artwork while balancing the 3/4 scale format and ensuring we could keep it within the mid-tier range for both features and price. It's always a careful mix of authenticity, practicality, and accessibility, and we appreciate you taking a close look at those details. So if you can get past the fact that this doesn't authentically recreate the original arcade, I have to say it still looks pretty darn good. I love the fact that they recreated the art from the original cabinet, taking the art that was on the side of the monitor box and putting it on this new shape. Me personally, I love the artwork that's here. I love the color palette that is used. The image of Darth Vader over the indoor woods is so cool. And of course with Leia, I think it's Leia, riding the speeder there underneath him. What an absolutely awesome image. The artwork is done so well here. The print on the side of the cabinet is really nice. I think you guys are going to dig it. And one of the other great things about the way this cabinet is shaped in its dimensions is even though this is a product from another company, Basic Fun, if you do have an arcade full of 3/4 scale Arcade 1-Up cabinets, this will slot right in and look exactly like the rest of your cabs. It won't stick out. You won't know you have something from another company. When we come around front, we're going to focus on the oversized marquee included with this arcade, and I've got to say, it's absolutely beautiful. The marquee has even light distribution, great colors. It just looks absolutely beautiful and is a showpiece on this cabinet. This may be one of the best looking marquees I've seen on a home arcade. Just underneath the marquee, you will find 2 speaker holes where the speaker volume will come through. I've got to say the volume on this cabinet is really good. Sound is super crisp. Everything sounds really good. However, it does seem like something's missing there. Where this is a cabinet trying to recreate what Arcade 1-Up have done with their deluxe models, it feels like it should be more than just holes in this piece of wood. Some speaker grills would have been a nice inclusion. Now, usually I would talk about the bezel, but there's not much to talk about here. It's basically just a black bezel around the screen. This is different than on the box and some of the product images where they did have some blue lines coming down to try to recreate the blue box that was on the original arcade, but the final version decided to leave those off. Then we get to the screen, and this is where this cabinet is going to fall apart for a lot of people, because if you've become accustomed to having your arcade cabinets with a BOE monitor, this isn't that. No, this is in fact a TN monitor named Lightstar on the back, which is basically the exact same monitor that was in the Mortal Kombat 30th Arcade 1-Up. So you have a 17-inch TN monitor. Now, a TN monitor isn't necessarily a bad thing, as they could actually have higher response times than BOE monitors typically would, but there are some issues with some TN monitors if they don't have even light distribution. The problem with the Mortal Kombat 30th cab was it was edge lit from one specific side, and unfortunately this monitor suffers from the exact same issues, as you get a very clear image while you're directly in front of it playing, which a lot of people will be satisfied with. But if you're looking at this cabinet from the right side on an angle, you will notice some washout. Now, this isn't as bad when you get a full colored screen like you're going to get with Return of the Jedi. You will notice a little bit of washout, but on the black, darker games, the screen is just going to be all white when you look at it. Again, not really an issue when you're directly in front of the monitor, there's no problem, but it will be an issue when you move to the side. This may not be a problem for most people, but some people are irritated by this, so I wanted to make it clear in this review what issues you're going to be dealing with. Now, like I mentioned, the screen looks really good on the title game, Return of the Jedi, but on the 2 vector games that are included, well, we're going to have to come back to that. The control panel looks awesome. It's an exact replica of the original Return of the Jedi control panel from the original arcade. They even included the Atari logo on the yoke, which was missing in a lot of the product images. So happy to see that Atari logo where it should be. Now, one thing you're going to immediately notice about this control panel is its height, where this cab is shaped in such a distinct way with the big marquee, with the screen underneath that, and then the panel that kind of is on a slant. You're going to notice that the control panel seems very low. In fact, if you put it directly right next to the Arcade 1-Up Dragon's Lair cab, which had one of the absolute lowest control panels, it's about on par. Now, thanks to my buddy Bill's Retro Gaming Show, he actually sent me an image of his original Arcade 1-Up Star Wars control panel, and it shows that the control panel bottom comes up to about 34 inches. Here on the Basic Fun Star Wars Return of the Jedi cab, the control panel bottom is at about 31 inches. So there's 3 inches of difference, which is pretty sizable according to what my wife says, about 3 inches. The good news, of course, is the fact that the included flight yoke is really good. It's one of the things Arcade 1-Up absolutely nailed on their Star Wars cabinet, and I'm very happy to say Basic Fun did as well. This yoke feels very good. It's got very good resistance. While you're playing in your games, you're getting no delay on moving the ships or the characters where you want them to move. The front trigger buttons feel really good. However, the back bomb buttons do feel a little loose for some reason, not as precise, but other than that, everything with the yoke will leave you very satisfied. Now, the last thing to mention with the control deck is, of course, if you take a look, you're going to notice this does not come with a deck protector, which has been one of the biggest complaints about the basic fun cabs so far. This one is one that it shouldn't be as big of an issue with. Where it is Star Wars, your hands are going to be up on the yoke, and you're not going to have a lot of problems with rubbing the control panel or any scratching or denting there. The other thing that I do want to bring up that Basic Fun did alert me of is the fact that even though there is no deck protector on the control deck, it doesn't mean the deck isn't protected. So in more email correspondence, Basic Fun did tell me to answer your initial questions. While the Ultra and Supreme models don't use plexiglass, the control deck art is printed with a high durability, scratch and rub resistant coating designed to stand up to regular play. We made sure to test it thoroughly. The goal was to preserve the authentic arcade feel without compromising longevity. So the front of the cabinet, or kick plate if you will, does look pretty plain. The only thing you're going to see on it is some in-game controls that are in fact supposed to be up on the bezel but maybe didn't fit, so they decided to move them down to the kick plate. And then underneath that you're going to find the Atari Star Wars Return of the Jedi arcade logo, which is not only on the front but also on each side. So a little bit of overkill there if you ask me. It goes without saying, what would have made this front panel look a lot better is, of course, a faux coin door. I'm going to say the same thing I said about the speaker panel with the grill covers. Arcade 1-Up with their deluxe models, which is supposed to be at the same price point. However, your MSRP is actually $100 more. With this model that mirrors the Ultra series, does offer a faux coin door. So of course, Basic Fun for their future Ultra releases should offer a faux coin door as well. When you turn on the cabinet, there's a fun startup screen that is eerily similar to what Arcade 1-Up previously did with their startup screens, followed by a very nice UI. I've got to say, this picture looks incredible. It's clean, well put together. It's easy to navigate between games. Each game has its own settings menu where you control different things like difficulty, and with Return of the Jedi you can turn on and off scan lines. There's also a very easy way for you to calibrate your flight yoke, much easier than the Arcade 1-Up Star Wars cab. So the UI and this screen is altogether a big win for Basic Fun. Of course, just like with the Arcade 1-Up Star Wars, this cabinet comes with all three arcade Atari Star Wars games: Atari Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and of course the title game, Return of the Jedi. The good news is, of course, your title game, Return of the Jedi, plays great on this cabinet. It has great clear visuals, the controls all work really well, the sound is good, the emulation is fantastic, and of course, one of the big pluses that a lot of people were worried about, this cabinet does in fact save your high scores. So unlike the Basic Fun Centipede cab where the high scores weren't saved, you're going to be able to save your high scores on Star Wars, which is a good thing because this of course is a score chasing cabinet. Now, me personally, I love Return of the Jedi. I think it's a fantastic game. I love putting on my scan lines, even though they're very subtle on this cabinet. I think the game looks great. I think it plays great. It's got a fun feel to it, but arguably, it's the worst of the three Atari Star Wars games. And why that's a problem with this cabinet is, while Return of the Jedi is very well done, emulated, looks good, plays well, unfortunately the two Vector games don't fare as well. So first off, let's go backwards. Let's talk about Empire Strikes Back, and of course this is a revision of the original Atari Star Wars. They sold it in the exact same cab, and it by itself is a very good game. In fact, some people consider this their favorite Atari Star Wars arcade game. But of course, it's a vector graphics game. It plays really well. It plays just like I remember on my Arcade 1-Up Star Wars cab, so there's no problem with the emulation from timing, from shooting, and all that. The only issue really is, for some reason, the vector graphics do not look good on the game. For some reason, when I'm playing them, they look a little bit fuzzy. I don't know if my camera will do a really good job of picking that up for you guys here, but I'm noticing the vector graphics, especially on the shots coming towards me, don't seem as clear and as crisp as they did with the Arcade 1-Up Star Wars cab. Now, personally, I don't know if this is an emulation issue or if it's a screen issue. Of course, with the original Arcade 1-Up Star Wars, the emulation was done by Code Mystics. Here, it's done listed as Mu emulation. Now, the other issue, like I mentioned earlier, the original Arcade 1-Up Star Wars came with a BOE monitor. This, of course, comes with a TN monitor listed as a Lightstar, so I don't know specifically if it's fuzzy because of emulation. Maybe they put some kind of softening filter on it, which, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing because that can be fixed by some kind of patch, software patch that Basic Fun can deliver. But if it is a screen issue, unfortunately that means we're going to have to do some kind of hardware mod, and maybe even then you won't be able to find a monitor that'll give you the graphics that you want. Now, last but not least, let's talk about Atari Star Wars, which is one of my favorite arcade games of all time. I missed having access to this game in my home arcade ever since I stupidly sold my Arcade 1-Up Star Wars cab thinking an XL was coming, but now thanks to Basic Fun, I can play this game again. Like I mentioned with Empire Strikes Back, this is a vector game, and unfortunately it suffers a lot of the same issues that Empire Strikes Back does as well. You can play it, it's really good, it's really enjoyable, the controls are really precise, no issue there, but you do run into the same issues again where the vector graphics just don't look as good. They don't look as clear, they don't look as crisp, they look a little bit fuzzy at times, and that's a big bummer because this is the game I was the most excited to play through this cabinet, and while I can play it and it is good, it's not as good as it should be. So anyways, guys, that's my look at the Basic Fun Star Wars Return of the Jedi Ultra Series Arcade Classics cab. I've got to say, I was a little bit disappointed with this one. I wanted it so bad to be good, and I feel so bad for Basic Fun because they reached out to me, they sent me this cab, they were very proud of this product, but unfortunately, it does run into a couple issues. There are a lot of things that are really good about this cab that make me feel confident that Basic Fun is a company to watch and can make really good products. With this cab particularly, I really like the build quality. I like the whole cam lock process. I thought the cab went together very quickly. All the materials for home arcade felt really good. The cam locks worked really well. I know a lot of people don't like them, but one of the benefits is, of course, there's no need for screw hole covers. I thought the art on the cab was absolutely beautiful, really good high quality prints on the side. You come around, you see that beautiful marquee, that big beautiful marquee, which is probably one of the best marquees for, you know, even light distribution, color, all that stuff that I have seen in the home arcade space. The cab's got great sound, and the yoke, they just did a fantastic job with that. So there's a lot to like with this cabinet. Unfortunately, there are also some pretty big negatives with the cabinet as well, one of which being the fact that they used a TN monitor with poor edge lighting. Of course, Arcade 1-Up used a BOE monitor for their Star Wars, and the picture looks great. It's got great dark levels, everything looks nice and crisp. With this TN monitor, you are going to get some blurring out if you move to the side. It's not a big issue if you're looking at it direct on, but if you do move to the side, you will notice some washout. Then there's the other thing about what's wrong with the emulation, possibly. Of course, Arcade 1-Up used Code Mystics, who did such a great job with Star Wars. This was done with Mu emulation. I don't know if it's the emulation specifically or if it's a result of the monitor they use, but there is some problems with the vector emulated games. Return of the Jedi, the title game, looks perfect. If you're buying it for that, you're going to be very happy. But if you get into Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, which are vector games, the vector emulation seems to be a little bit dark, seems to be a little bit fuzzy, doesn't seem to be as good. The games play well and everything works like it should. It just doesn't look as good as it should. And because of that, unfortunately, this cabinet isn't as good as the previously released Arcade 1-Up Star Wars cab. It's still, as B. Kong would say, playable. It's just not as good, and that's a disappointment. I feel, again, so bad for Basic Fun here because I really wanted this to be a home run from them. And like I said, there's a lot to like. It's just two of those negatives really make it hard for me to suggest to anybody to, one, upgrade. I would never do that from the Arcade 1-Up. And two, to even buy this, you're going to have to take into consideration those issues before you do. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the Basic Fun Star Wars Return of the Jedi Arcade Classics Ultra Series cab? Wow, that's a mouthful. Let me know down below in the comments. Is this something you're interested in, disappointed by? Are you still going to pick one up? Let me know down below. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. This is Michael B. the Game Genie. I'll talk to you next time.